What's up? Today we're talking about players. We're planting our flag on 'em. These are our guys. We're going to start that show right now. I think I realized I always cut myself out on the right about now part. So it's Bob's Three-Toed Warriors from Studio 1329 with the Word on the Streets, Season 1, Episode 35. Got Detroit Beastie, friend of the show, the man. There he is. Big old smile, big old wave. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. Kind of an impromptu thing. My fault. I had seen your just pull the curtain back a little bit. You and I are in several groups on Twitter, group chats, and you threw it out there. And I've never been one to say I don't feel like doing that. I'm going to pass, especially with you, Bob. But I was like, I wasn't not that I wasn't in a great mood. I was just tired. I wanted to rest. And then I got back on my computer. I started making some trades and some trade offers. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to message Bob. I want him.
There you go. Well, it's okay. That means we just doubled up the amount of players. So this show is called, I'm going to call this show The Warriors and the Beast.
Yes.
The Fantasy Football Warriors and the Beast. So some guys have their my guys. Some guys have their good fellas, and I'm Bob's Three-Toed Warriors, so I gotta have my Warriors. And you're Detroit Beastie. Why not make them the Beast? You're not an official co-host of the show. There is no co-host of the show, but you're just about there, man. Just gotta get your chair over here in the studio, and we'll be good to go.
I'll be there.
So speaking of that, we got something being added to the stream right now for those watching on video. Oh, look at that. So yeah, that's the Studio 1329, ready to go with a little co-host guest spot over there on the left. So you're ever in town, got a little seat for you here.
That's fantastic. You're right outside of Chicago, correct?
Yep, out there in Aurora, Illinois. So
that's
absolutely,
that's like a 4 or 5 hour drive. It's not bad. I've done it before.
Just drop in for a show and we'll be good to go.
That's it.
Long drive for one show. You have to make another reason for it.
Fly me in.
All right. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about some guys that we're just high on, maybe compared to consensus, that we just want to plant our flag on, say, I think this guy's going to have a better year than other people are going to have. Or maybe it's someone who other people expect to have a great year as well, but we just love this guy. Or maybe it's just someone that, we've done 2, 3, 4, 10 drafts this off season, and we're just trying to snag this guy in drafts. We're trying to trade for him in our dynasty leagues. We're just in love with this player for reason A or reason B or reason C, D, and E or F, all the above. So we're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna hash it out and see who we like and go from there. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go if I'm the guest. I mean.
That's what I was thinking.
I should have the first go. So on my list, I have McCole Hardman, Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, 22 years old. His ADP is like 104-ish, so mid to early 10th round, which is fine. And not to be a spoiler, but about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I tweeted out, and it was a split screen. One guy was McCole Hardman, and the next guy I'll get to after you. But two guys I added, I actually traded for them because I was in love with their potential after having dug into the stats and all that. So McCole Hardman in Kansas City looks to have a fantastic year. Now, I know you're either on his side or you're not. I'm planting my flag on Hardman this season. Now, I know the first what's the first knock people normally go for, and I don't want to say that it's lazy, but it's just low-hanging fruit. It's the easiest one. Well, he's in Kansas City. They have, Pat Mahomes as their quarterback, and look at all the other receivers they have. The tight end, who's basically a receiver. So Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, who doesn't bother me whatsoever, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is there now. He's going to be taking some receiving work, but it's going to be hard when he's basically their running back one, the only guy in town that's going to run the ball, right? So last season, Hardman only had 41 targets. I know that's a bummer, but the reason I like him so much is because I can see him doubling that this season. 41 last year. What's the harm in him having 82 targets this coming season? So with double the targets comes double the production, double the yards he had, around the same amount of touchdowns. But if you look at what Hardman did last season, he was your textbook boomer bust guy. I know people like to talk about that. But with him last season, it was so frustrating, like all boomer bust guys. You know, I put him in my lineup after he boomed last week, and then he busts the next week. So you never know what you're going to get. But Hardman, you know, in the 10th round as a flex wide receiver, even your wide receiver 3, as I have him on my defending championship roster. I love it there, and I don't see any harm with drafting Hardman in the 10th, 11th round and putting him in a flex spot or your wide receiver 3 position. A lot of boom weeks coming this season for him.
Absolutely. I have him in a couple of my leagues. I got to keep him last night's draft for a 15th round keeper because I took him as my last pick the year before. So that was a beautiful thing. And then my wife was drafting right before or after me, depending which side of the turn it was. And she sniped Clyde on me in the first round. And I was a little pissed about that, but you brought him up. So I thought I'd add that in, little fun there in the family, right? So yes. No, I love Mecole Hardman, and I think that if he can get those extra targets, and they were kind of auditioning, you know, the other wide receivers on the team to see who's our guy, because Sammy Watkins isn't really doing it for us, and this guy is, you know, injured, and this guy is out, and Tyreek, you know, a little trouble ski here or there, that kind of thing. So they're trying to figure out who the man was, and I think he came out as the man. Now they just have to start chucking the ball a little more. And I think that the passing opportunities come up, that production is definitely going to be there. So I 100% agree with that. For those, I didn't mention it, but the man you were just listening to, and for those not watching on the YouTubes, that's at Detroit Beastie. He's been on the show enough. I think most of you guys know him. This is, I think, show number 5 for you, sir. You gotta have a 2-show lead over Kevin out there. So.
I'd be lying if I didn't think about that before we went live.
I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't going to remind you every time. So, but at Detroit Beastie, give him a follow on Twitter. He is a great follow. Gives a lot of great information. And if you want to know stuff about he's got the sophisticated system of Post-it notes up there on the camera. He's got the 5 marked out on Bob's 3-toed. I love it. If you want to find out about DFS information, and it's not just fantasy football, it's hockey, it's baseball. The guy's putting out articles all the time. If you forget his handle, just look on mine. That's at Bob's 3-toed on Twitter. You will find a Detroit Beastie tweet out there, and you can find him from there and follow him from there. So don't miss out. And he does say he loves at the boys 22. You put a little heart on it. So
catch up, son. Catch up.
All right. As I said, I am at Bob's 3-toed on Twitter. On YouTube, it's Bob's 3-toed Warriors, and on Facebook, it's the Word on Streets Fantasy Football Podcast. So follow, subscribe, like, all that wonderful stuff. It's I appreciate it a ton. So, all right, let's continue on to my first Warrior, and that is going to be Mr. Devin Singletary. Now, I can easily see the reason people are I'm not going to say they're even torn on him. I can see why a lot of people are out on him. And I'm going to lay that out for you. So he is running back 24. That's the end of the second tier, not tier, but second 24. 12, back end of the second set of running backs. Overall draft pick 59. That is the end of the 5th round. So you got to put a little investment into him if you want him. Not a huge one, but it's definitely there. Last season, he did 151 rushing attempts, 775 rushing yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Gotta love that. Only 2 rushing touchdowns, and that's because they were giving the ball to the eternal youth of Frank Gore, and then Frank Gore 5 or 6 times couldn't put it in from the 1-yard line, and so his quarterback took it in from there, which quarterback sneak on the 1-yard line should be the play anyway, guys. I mean, have you guys never played Madden? It's the play you start with, not the play you end with. Come on. Unless it's fantasy football, then, of course, we want our running backs to have it. But that's Devin Singletary for you last season. This season, I see him being more being the lead running back, getting the 247 rushing attempts with the full season. There's my dog. 1,200 rushing yards almost, and only 6 touchdowns, which for that many rushing attempts is pretty low of a touchdown rate. You should have on average about 9 touchdowns for that many rushes. I only gave him 6 because I do think that Zach Moss will steal 4 or 5 of them. I do think that Allen will get his. I just think that team is going to give him the ball. I think they're going to trust him a lot more this year. I think he had the rookie untrust with the team. That's why they gave it to Old Man Gore. But I also think that Zach Moss might get a little bit of that untrust as well at the goal line. If you listen to the shows, you've heard me say it before. I'm not surprising anybody. I also think he'll get some passing touchdowns there as well. A couple of them, nothing crazy. And I think that rushing and receiving is going to add up and it's going to help out a lot, especially if you're in a half PPR or a full PPR. It's going to bounce him up a little. And I have been snagging him wherever I could because in that realm of running backs there, I love him just about as much as anybody else. And I think he's getting a little sneakily left behind. And I don't think you are on that same bandwagon with Singletary, if I remember right, but
no,
I could be wrong.
I absolutely love Singletary, and especially last season being a rookie and what he did. But again, it seems like the theme of the night so far is I'd be lying if, right? So I'd be lying if I said that Diggs coming to town didn't bum me out a little bit. Them drafting Zach Moss didn't bum me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, it didn't make sense to me. You drafted Singletary. He did well. He came on later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
As you put it earlier, I don't want to say try out because, when you draft a running back like that, you're not trying him out. You're just, letting him get the lay of the land. We all know as rookies progress through their first season in the pros, they start to, take on a bigger role, start learning the playbook a little bit more. And with that comes more responsibility. And they gave it to him and he did well. So drafting a guy like Moss, it wasn't strange to me. I mean, I know like on our fantasy teams, we like to have depth, but to have two young, but in real life, you have to think that didn't hurt Singletary's feelings a little bit, bum him out a little bit. I played well my rookie season in Buffalo. It's a huge football city. The fans go nuts. They're just like us here in Detroit. They want a winner so bad. They draft Moss and, it starts to bump people out. But I think Singletary is going to be okay. I think there's a way for Singletary and Moss to coexist and both be highly successful.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and we're gonna have to see what this season brings out and go from there. So it's definitely a shot that I like, but we shall see. Let's go on to your next guy and your next beast. Well, you already did Mecole Hardman. Who you want to do next?
Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown in Baltimore. Young kid, 23, coming into his own. His ADP is at 62, 63-ish, so you're talking 6th round. Which is fine given the talent and the output there. I have Hollywood Brown at over 100 targets, like 105-ish. About 60 to 65 of those will be catches. Because if you look at it, last season he had a 64.8% catching rate, catching percentage. So if you have 100 targets, he's going to catch 60 of them. It's just math. People, break out your calculators. Right. About 900 yards. I don't see him getting to 1,000 yards just yet. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, maybe this time next season. And a healthy load of touchdowns, 7 to 8. And last season he had 7. So why not, say he's going to catch 8 touchdowns? And again, just like Hardman, Hollywood Brown was the textbook boomer bust wide receiver last season, right? 1 week you start him, he doesn't do anything. You're like, well, I'm benching him. I'm upset with him. If you're like me, that's how I treat my fantasy team. You need to earn your starting wide receiver spot on my team, son. Yeah. So same with Hardman. Brown was that same way, but there's some things that have changed since then. Baltimore has gone out and they absolutely murdered their draft with defensive players, and even they sprinkled in some offensive talent there. But I really love what Baltimore's going to do this season. Again, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I'm not going to hop on any bandwagons, especially Baltimore's, because they're, the casual football fan is like, oh, I love Baltimore. I love Kansas City. Well, how about you get in the trenches with a guy like me who's backed the Lions all these years and and really make some roots here, right? So Hollywood Brown, they've already come out and said it. He's going to be their number one receiver. What is that really saying, though, when you got Lamar running like a madman?
Yeah.
Mark Andrews is there. They have Ingram, who is looking to pass the torch to J.K. Dobbins. So there's a lot of nice things to like in Baltimore this year. And I firmly believe Hollywood Brown is one of those pieces to love. And I'm planting my flag on Brown this season.
Love it. I gave him 107 targets, 69 receptions. So I was right there with you.
Absolutely.
I can see it. I can definitely see it happening. And if it was any other team other than Baltimore, we'd probably be talking about him a lot higher because of his talent and what he can do, because he wouldn't be held back by a quarterback that's going to run the ball so much and have so many great running backs on the team and so a great tight end. I mean, it's a good team. So yeah, if he was on a different team, I could see him being even higher. So yeah,
absolutely.
Nice. Good call. All right. My next guy, and if anyone laughs, you can hit me up on Twitter. You can put down in the comments. Load up them comments, man. I'll jam her back with you. I'm not afraid of anything. I got Twitter protecting me.
You got me.
Can't punch me. So, all right. So my next guy is a guy that can be drafted on Fantasy Pros in the 16.08th round.
Ooh.
Okay. And so we drafted last night with no kickers, no defense, 3 flexes, and we went 16 rounds, which means he went undrafted, except I was going to draft him with my last pick, and someone snagged him either the round before or that round. It's a pretty damn deep round, our league. So here's the thing. Last year, let me pull it up here. Last year, Mr. Corey Davis only had 69 passing attempts. Nice. 43 receptions, 600 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that's in 15 games. It just was not a great year. The year before, 112 passing attempts. I like that. That's respectable. 65 receptions. That's only 58%. A little bit light there. Almost 900 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that gave him wide receiver 28. So let's just say that's all he does is wide receiver 28. If you can pick up wide receiver 28 in the 17th round of a draft and get a consistent wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 3 to put in your first flex, second flex, third wide receiver spot, damn if you don't, it doesn't make sense not to. So I have him projected for 99 targets. So that's coming down from 2 years ago. It's going up from last year. 61 receptions, down from 2 years ago, up from last year. 841 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, because I think this team will do some scoring. And that puts him at, I need to double check my stats. That says wide receiver 43. I'm missing something. I don't like that. I think he can have a big year was the point I was getting at, but something's wrong with that sheet. I have to come back to that. I still believe in Corey Davis having a good year. And I think that A.J. Brown is going to get a lot of double coverage. I think that Henry he's going to get the ball, but they're going to mix it up with Darrington Evans back there. And I think they're just going to have to change it up a little. They can't just give him 70 passes. I think the team is going to be throwing a lot more than last year. If I'm not correct, the Mr. IDP over here will correct me if I'm wrong. Their defense took a little step back. Would you agree with that? No?
Tennessee?
Yeah.
In a way, yes, but they were one of those teams every year it happens, where a team catches magic in a bottle, and it propelled them all the way to the AFC Championship game last year, right? With Tannehill, and Henry was a madman. And in terms of their defense, it was the classic case of everybody was doing their job. Both the offense was doing their job, then defense was doing their job, and they gelled, and it was, fantastic across the board. So to say they took a step back, I can't really confirm nor deny that. They were just a very well-oiled machine last season.
There you go. I guess my biggest thing is I don't see him catching the magic in the bottle again. I don't, the defense might be as good as it was, but I don't think the offense will be as efficient as it was. And if it's not as efficient, and if A.J. Brown isn't getting 52 receptions for 1,000 yards, 20 yards per reception, which is ridiculous. 8 touchdowns on 52 receptions, ridiculous. If they're not doing that, they're going to be throwing the ball and they're going to be spreading around to some other guys. And here's what we have behind him. Behind Corey Davis, we have Adam Humphries, Cody Hollister, Kyle Williams. Wait, who's Kyle Williams? Kyle Williams and Khalif Raymond. I mean, okay, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying he's having the 5-year break, the 5th-year breakout that Parker had, because Parker 5th-year breakout into a 1, but I think he can easily get up into that low 2, high 3. That's where I see it going. Although something's wrong with my number here, does not say that at all, but I still think he can make it there. So yeah, that's why I'm saying if you kind of went running back heavy, there's a nice little guy you can snag late in your draft and should be able to get something decent out of it, I think, this year. All right, we'll kick it back over to you.
So my next guy is I'm trying to keep this as relevant as I can, because I'm on Twitter a lot. I interact with everybody. It's a fun place to be, especially in the fantasy football community that we're in. I'd be lying if I said when I get in bed at night, I look at my phone and I don't think, I wonder if, on the other side of the earth, there's a group of people like us who think they're the only, good, close-knit fantasy football community. And it's like The Walking Dead, right? They think they have their own,
their Twitter wakes up when ours goes to sleep.
Exactly. So it's like, is there some like untapped potential, that we could maybe, groove with another huge conglomerate of, I don't know. I'm a weirdo, but it's cool. So my next guy, in keeping with, being relevant, I just got my first share within the last 2 hours of Miami Dolphins wide receiver, Preston Williams. So,
okay.
If you look at this kid, he was peppered with targets, to start the season. Then he unfortunately tore his ACL, I believe. I believe it was ACL, not MCL or meniscus or anything like that. It was his ACL.
It'll slow you down either way when you're a wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, he's a fast kid, 23 years old. He was drafted out of Colorado State, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe someone can double check that. And he wasn't drafted early on because of some character issues, some character flaws, right? And he burst onto the scene. He was fantastic for Miami. Like I said, he was peppered with targets. He had 60 targets in 8 games, working side by side with Devontae Parker, who Preston Williams saw more targets than Devontae Parker up to that time. So I don't want to sound like a jerk, but would it be rude to say Parker, really took off and had his breakout at the expense of Preston Williams hurting his knee? So fast forward to now, kid has looked outstanding in camp, which I don't pay a lot of, mind to that or like hitch my wagon to, fantastic camps because, some of these guys, they're not running half speed, but they only have shoulder pads and a helmet on, no, football pants on, let's say. So it's just it's kind of like glorified walkthroughs. I mean, they're doing some hitting. Look at what happened with Chubb, which is unbelievable that Cleveland would even let that happen. But I digress. So looking at Preston Williams this season, I'm expecting big things from him. So much so, his ADP is in the 140s right now, almost 150s. So we're talking 14th, 15th round. And in this case, I would hop on him now before his ADP starts to climb. So I don't see it where you might want, you can just let your foot off the gas. You can probably get him in the 17th or 18th round. Nope. This week, he's going to start to climb. He's going to start going into the 12th, 13th round. I guarantee it. And I love what he's going to do this season. I have him for well over 100 targets again, 105, 106, 60 to 70 catches, 850 yards, not going to get to 1,000. But again, a solid 6 or 7 touchdowns for Preston Williams. And in the 14th or 15th round, that's fantastic. So I got Hardman, Brown, and Williams, 3 guys that you can clearly draft on the same team. There shouldn't be an issue, if you're one of those guys that wants to go out and get their guy on draft day, you can get all 3 guys on your team. And that's a fantastic start. If, as you said, to start the broadcast, you go 0 wide receiver to start your draft. You just hammer home and pepper running backs. And then you wait till 10th, 11th round to start drafting some of these guys. So Preston Williams, planting my flag.
There we go. There's one of Detroit's beasts. All right, so we're gonna flip over to quarterback. I got two quarterbacks here, and these two quarterbacks, I don't know if they could be much more different. They could be, because one of them could be Lamar Jackson, which would be a step better in many ways than my guy here, than my warrior here, Gardner Minshew. Both running quarterbacks. And when you hear my next quarterback, definitely not a running quarterback. So Gardner Minshew is quarterback 26. Well, if you got 12 teams in your fantasy league, and everybody takes 2, and a couple jagoffs take 3, that guy taking 3 is getting Gardner Minshew by their standings here. That's a 176, which is pretty much almost undrafted, last round of the draft kind of quarterback there. And I got him more around that low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2, but lots of opportunity. And I think the reason for me, you can look at stats. The guy did some running last season, and I think anytime you can get a quarterback that gets that little bit of rushing floor in there, like Josh Allen, like Lamar Jackson, although that's a severe case, but anybody who can get you a couple hundred yards, it's making up for some mistake interceptions. It's making up for just for touchdowns they don't get, maybe for receptions they don't, the incomplete passes they get, stuff like that. So it makes a big difference. So he did 344 rushing yards. I was stalling there while I was looking for that number, if you couldn't tell. Detroit BC's laughing at me there. It's okay. 344 rushing yards in 14 games. That's probably close to 416 games. That's not too damn shabby. He did not get any rushing TDs off of those 67 rushing attempts. And I think that alone is an opportunity right there. I gave him 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground this year. I gave him 400 rushing yards. Passing, I think this team is pretty discombobulated this year in many ways. They're in this internal strife within the company, within the house. You got players that are like, trade me, get me the hell out of here. I don't want to play on this team. Say again?
It's unfortunate, yeah.
It is very unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, you guys are getting paid millions of dollars. Just kiss and make up. Figure it out. Damn. I have to kiss and make up at work for less. For a lot less. We don't actually kiss at work. I'm not getting fired by anybody, just in case any of my coworkers are listening, or my wife. But I think they're going to be, and it's a great example because he's on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's going to be a Bortles-esque type season for Gardner Minshew, getting that yardage, getting that garbage time. And I think when you turn on the game in the first quarter or two, you're not going to love your stats. But by the time you get done with the fourth quarter, you're going to be like, all right, I don't care if they lost. I just got a bunch of points. And I think that's the kind of season they're going to have. So, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I just think it's going to be one of those guys that you can steal if you are a one quarterback, no quarterback kind of guy, or you like to take 2 shots late. I usually take only one quarterback and then I stream. Last night, people were taking 2 and 3 tight ends and 2 and 3 quarterbacks. Is that COVID? I don't know. Is it because it's the friends and family league and that's just what people start doing? I don't know, but I wasn't going to have nobody to stream with. I'm like, okay, I'll take my guy late. That's fine. You let me have him. That's cool. So, it's a nice little a pairing to have somebody with that kind of floor fill in your bye week and not have to worry about it if you grab him as your second guy. So that's Mr. Gardner Minshew. And I am taking him as one of my warriors. Put on the war paint. Let's go, baby. Over to you, Detroit Beastie.
All right, so my next guy is back to me. It's a running back, right? But he's more of a handcuff guy, Tony Pollard in Dallas.
Yep.
So we all know what Dallas is working with. Their stud quarterback Dak, rookie CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and the big guy, the boss, Zeke Elliott there in Dallas. So you would think, well, why do you want to draft Tony Pollard if you're not a Zeke Elliott owner? Zeke Elliott owner, you're going to want to draft him if you're a handcuff guy. But I firmly believe that Tony Pollard has some standalone value. And what that means is he can still, you can still start him and he can rack up some sort of points, even if Zeke is on the field. I don't want to say I got into an argument on Twitter with a guy. It was a very
healthy debate.
Very spirited debate. Yes.
Spirited.
And looking at things now, Kellen Moore is their offensive coordinator. Kid played at Boise State. He used to be the backup or third string quarterback here in Detroit. He's a great football mind. I mean, so much so that Dallas made him their offensive coordinator. And he came out months ago and said that we are going to work Tony Pollard into our system. He's going to have a set amount of routes and plans. We're going to, hook him up with, some sort of, what do you call that? A package, different packages. So this coming season, I have him for about 90 carries, which is very light for a running back. Obviously, he's not being drafted as an RB1. Mind you, his ADP is like 117, 120-ish. So we're talking 11th or 12th round. Perfect time to grab him. 23-year-old kid, as I said. So 90 carries, about 375 yards. That's a little, generous. But if I'm planting my flag, I want to be ambitious with my guys. 2 rushing touchdowns, 25 to 30 receptions, 200 even yards, and then another touchdown or 2 catching the ball. And I know what you're going to say. That's wild. That's ambitious. But again, mind you that they're going to work him in to their plans long term. Young kid. And I hate saying it, but the moment Zeke misses any time, God willing, Pollard, he skyrockets, right?
Sure.
He's an RB1 with that kind of workload in that kind of offense. And if you're looking at last year's stats to maybe further my plan here, he had a 75% catch rate, which is fantastic for a running back. And he had 5.29 yards a carry last season as a running back. Right. But I know what you're saying. He only got 86 carries last season. So of course those numbers are bound to be, skewed or, trended in the right direction. But those are things, that you have to take an honest and open look at when you're looking to draft a running back in the 12th or 13th round, because most times at that point, it's barren. It's a wasteland, right? So you're trying to, just get the best guy at the best position at that moment in time. So I don't think you can go wrong with Tony Pollard. Steal him away from the Zeke Elliott owner in the draft, and even, hey, look to trade for him, right now before the season starts. And I'm telling you, it'll pay off. If not, you have fantastic depth on your team.
Love it. There you go. Another beast for the beastie. All right. So I told you I was giving you. Go ahead. Plant the flag. That was one of the 2 brothers that did that. It was Niner's brother, right?
Yeah, they were. Weren't they linebackers?
Yeah.
Their dad was something Lewis or Norton, Ken Norton. He was a boxer.
No, that was. I'm thinking of. It was last season. What's the 2 brothers?
Oh, the Bosa brothers.
Yeah. I think one of the Bosas did it.
Okay. No, but there was a linebacker for San Francisco, and his dad was a heavyweight world champion boxer.
Oh, there you go.
Ken
bonus tip,
something like that. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Bonus tip. That was for free, y'all. All right. So my guy is the exact opposite of my last player. He's a guy that I have never owned in my life until last night, because the value made it to me, and I like it. So I took him last night in the 6th round, which is in a keeper league is more like the 7th round, maybe even 8th, because so many good players are kept late. That gives you an extra round of value on stuff. So I couldn't pass him by because it felt like I was stealing him. I won't take an early quarterback unless it feels like I'm stealing him. I am stealing that line from Mr. Dave Richards. Give you all the love, Dave Richards. I stole that from you, CBS Sports Pod. So his ADP is number 72, which is the end of the 6th round. So I got him maybe around late based on where I took him and the keepers. But Drew Brees this year, if you look at his schedule, it is ridiculous. I'm going to pull it up here and give it to you guys. But even without that, they usually throw for anywhere from on the low side, mid 500 passes to almost 700 passes a couple seasons ago.
Yeah,
the guy is going to chuck the ball. He's going to throw the ball. What did you say the player's name was? The guy's name was?
No, I said that the amount that they throw the ball in New Orleans is silly.
Yeah, and they took their biggest step back when Mark Ingram was on the team. And when him and Kamara were divvying it up between the two, that's the 2 years they really pulled back on the passing. Well, Latavius Murray is there, and he's good, and I've taken him in some drafts because he's a great handcuff and also a little standalone value for himself. But I think the passing attempts are just going to be really high for this team, and here's why. Week 1, is that preseason? Is that regular season? That's regular season, 9-13. Week 1, the Bucks. I see that being a high-scoring game. Week 2, the Raiders. I don't know if I see it a high-scoring game, but they've definitely geared up their offense to be in shootouts with teams like the Chiefs and stuff like that. They're trying to be a high-flying team. And when you play the Saints, you might have to step up the game and test some of those weapons in week 2. We'll see. They play the Packers, then they move over to the Lions. If you remember Stafford at the beginning of last season, the man was chucking the ball. They play the Chargers. They play the Panthers. They play in a division that just has big teams. The Falcons twice. They're going to be scoring a lot of points. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Whether they're winning or losing, they're going to be chucking the ball, and Breeze is going to be the one doing it, barring injury. Man wants to win a Super Bowl this year. He wants to go out on top. He sees Jameis Winston behind him. He sees Taysom Hill, who I think will be a tight end or wide receiver this year. I think they'll change his designation at some point. That's why I also drafted him in the league just for fun, really, really late. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because I think he's just going to have a huge amount of opportunity to get a huge amount of points, touchdowns, and yardage because of the teams he faces this year. And he doesn't have one of those terrible schedules where it's like, ooh, that's okay. He plays the Niners in there, but it's not a horrible stack of defenses he plays. He plays the Chiefs. He's playing my AFC West, so he's got a shootout with the Chiefs coming. He's got a total shootout with the Broncos. I mean, that's going to be like 60-60. You know that.
Oof, yeah.
You don't buy that at all, do you? I didn't buy it when I said it. So
that'd be fantastic. I mean, for what we're doing, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's late in this. It's late in the season. Hopefully, by then, all these rookies have gelled with our quarterback. So, Drew Lock, we'll see. But yeah, I'm calling him one of my Warriors, and I'm hoping he goes out deep into the playoffs this year and scores lots of points. So, there he is, Mr. Drew Brees.
So real quick, I was correct. It was Ken Norton.
There you
go. He's a Hall of Fame boxer. He was inducted in 1992 to the Boxing Hall of Fame. In 2004, he was inducted into the Marines Sports Hall of Fame. This guy fought Muhammad Ali 3 times. He fought Holmes. He fought George Foreman a couple times. Fought 50 times professionally. Won numerous heavyweight championships. Was an absolute stud, and his son, Ken Norton Jr., played for San Francisco. And then anytime, I believe, and this is from memory because, San Francisco 49ers would play the Lions when I was little, and he would, hit the, the pad that protects the goalpost right there.
Mm-hmm.
He would hit that and uppercut that.
Unfortunately, boxing.
Yeah, unfortunately, he died, and it looks like 2013 at the age of 70, but lived a full life surrounded by his family and friends and his professional linebacking son.
Nice. All right.
So getting in, I assume you want my last guy here, and we can get the heck out of here, huh?
That's your last guy? It's not your last guy.
I have one guy. Well, I have 2 left, but one guy I want to get to more than the other.
All right.
So that guy is
he's leaving the show.
That guy is Arizona. Not until you tell me. I'll stay here all night. So my second to last guy, to be clear, is Arizona running back Chase Edmonds. So he's 24 years old. We all know Kenyon Drake was traded from Miami to Arizona midway through last season, and Kenyon Drake went nuts. He had a fantastic season. So much so that he's being drafted. I'm talking about Kenyon Drake. He's being drafted as a top 12.
Yeah.
Top 10 would be wild, but it's not far-fetched. So when you look at Chase Edmonds, he is that prototypical running back, RB2 on a team that also has massive standalone value. And I explained that with Tony Pollard last, but Chase Edmonds is an absolute firecracker. The kid has wheels. He can do it all, running, catching. So coming up this season, I have him for not significant, but slightly better numbers than last year. Last season, he carried the ball 60 times. This season, I have him around 80 carries for about 300 to 400 yards. I know the 100 yards, that's a big deal in terms of drafting, but it's almost the end of August. There's no preseason games. I've said it. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I only like to put out one set of rankings. I don't like to put rankings out in January and then tease and I'm going to update them next week. Like I want to do it once and get it right, kind of thing. So Chase Edmonds, I'm big on him. His ADP is 105, 106. So another guy you can get in the 10th round that will greatly benefit your team, and he's such a good complement to your team, even if you don't have Kenyon Drake, because again, is Kenyon Drake for real? Is he not? I don't want to say this without it being true, but I don't know if Drake has a substantial injury history in terms, of going down and leaving his team holding their hats. But Chase Edmonds to me is a must draft along with Tony Pollard, at running back, given their ADPs and given their potential, depending on the guy in front of them and the team that they're on. Arizona is going to be fantastic this season. A bunch of young, high-flying kids. And then you got the old vet, the absolutely future Hall of Famer in Larry Fitzgerald. The first ever, aside from maybe Tom Brady, coach, player at the same time. So Chase Edmonds, planting my flag, buddy.
All right. I dig it. Yeah, he's been an interesting one to look at and to take in leagues just because that opportunity is there if something does happen, and you could definitely have a little value too. So my guy is another running back who's also that second running back on a team. And he's kind of getting left behind because last year wasn't that hot for him. So last year wasn't, but 2 years ago, he was an absolute stud. And he was an absolute stud because he was alongside Jordan Howard back then. Jordan Howard doesn't know how to catch a ball, allegedly. And proven, and I guess somewhat proven through time. They gave him a shot too, and it didn't go so hot, even though he spent some time practicing. But that's Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen. So I have him there. He can go in the consensus 30, 42. That's where they got him ranked as a wide receiver. Pretty low. Or ADP, excuse me. So it's pretty low. It's pretty deep. That's not what I'm reading. Consensus 110. 9th round. So depends on which scoring you're looking at. I pulled it up a little funny here, so it looks a little funny to me. But it's pretty late is the point there. So if he can pick up some more of that passing work that he missed out on last season. So if you look at last season, he had targets.
A guy like
4 targets. Mm-hmm.
A guy like Cohen is fantastic in a PPR league.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Only
a guy
PPR. Nobody
talks about. Same vein as James White. They're absolute gold in full point PPR leagues. The bigger the league, the better, because you can. I just traded for James White while we were doing our broadcast. Remember, I told you
wrapped up the deal.
I wrapped up the deal, so I have James White now,
nice.
And I wouldn't be opposed to drafting Cohen again and starting both of them in my flex spot week to week. Those catches are fantastic. Cohen had 97 receptions last year. That's unbelievable. Just shy of 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if you're looking at him this coming season, he's a lock for 65. I mean, 60 is just, you can set it in stone, bet the farm on it. 65, and 70 is what we're pushing for. So 70 receptions out of a running back with a 10th round ADP, it's something that it's up to you as the person to do your homework and be prepared in your draft, because otherwise they fall through the cracks and some schlub drafts them not knowing. They're like, oh, I like Chicago, and it helps them week to week. Be the guy who does your homework and draft a guy like Cohen.
Yeah. I let him pass by last night. It was a standard scoring, non-PPR, not even a half PPR. And
Fast.
because Montgomery has stolen so much groundwork from him, and he relies only more so on the passing game, and he was half as efficient last year as the year before, which is a great opportunity to come up, right? When you have that outlier season where last year you were kind of really low, year before you're really high, should be somewhere in the middle. Good opportunity for him, but I didn't want to just rely on that passing game alone. But if you can get him in a half PPR, full PPR, I think it's a great late round steal for those who are just looking to bolster those bye weeks, bolster that second, third flex. If you got a deeper league, he's a nice little added pepper in. There you go. We're gonna hit up your last guy, and then we'll hit my last guy. We'll say our farewells, and we'll call this bad boy a night.
Absolutely. So this next guy is. Given where I live, where I was born, and where I was raised, it's going to be quite clear that I love DeAndre Swift. So, again, full transparency. I've always been open and honest with you, Bob. I've always been open and honest with any of the readers of my content, other analysts and other guys. I'm open and honest with everybody. I find it to be the best way to live, right?
Yeah, never have to question what you said.
I don't have to remember what lie I told and to who I told it to. It gets exhausting after a while. So little life lessons from Detroit Beastie here tonight, along with some fantastic fantasy analysis. So
for free.
If you look at Swift, I remember when they drafted him in the second round, I was outside doing some yard work, and I said, well, that sounds good, right? I didn't pay much attention to it. But as the weeks turned into months and the months have turned into 4 or 5 months since the draft, Swift has been all around fantastic. And it just this past week or so of practice in Allen Park, right outside of Detroit, where the Lions practice, he's been phenomenal. He's been fantastic. And I love what he's going to do and what he brings to the table. And I know I wrote an article like a week after the draft because I was so beside myself with everybody burying, starting running backs, Aaron Jones and things, and Marlon Mack. But now with the Marlon Mack being buried or Kerryon Johnson being buried, it might be well warranted because for those of you who don't know, Kerryon Johnson was wearing a leg brace the last week to 10 days. And I'm talking like the Stone Cold Steve Austin old school knee brace, from the middle of your thigh to the middle of your shin. It just, it helps your knee from bending this way or that. So that just goes to show you that either he's not comfortable or trusting his own leg when he's in practice making cuts, or the organization as a whole is saying, wear it and let's just be safe. But Swift is there. I believe that there's a scenario where they both, the dream scenario would be where they can both coexist and get it done, both in rushing and catches. Because if you remember, Kerryon can catch passes too, not at the same clip and at the rate in which Swift can do, but who's the better running back overall? It's hasn't been proven yet. Kerryon has had some issues staying healthy, but he came back at the end of last season, looked great. So I don't know. It all throws me into a tizzy, but all I know is I'm going to want to draft DeAndre Swift, and his ADP right now is 56.8, and that was, up to the minute. I know it changes and it fluxes,
sure.
Influx, whatever, fluxes around, give or take the day or the time you go to, but draft Swift. 5th or 6th round. That's fantastic. Obviously, in dynasty startups, it's going to be a lot sooner. Rookie drafts, he's a top 5 pick, but make sure he's on your radar. He's going to be a guy that you're going to want on your team for PPR. Absolutely. For dynasty startups, it's a given. What are you doing? And, even in redraft leagues, I would, I don't want to say, a dart throw because he's not a dart throw, but in redraft leagues, take him in the 5th or 6th round, and more will be revealed. I guess that's a good way of saying things. More will be revealed in not only the Lions backfield, but with what Swift is going to give us this season.
So what you're saying is you should put this beast on your team swiftly.
Absolutely. And I assume that snarky comment was after I tweeted out that I just landed Swift and Jonathan Taylor in the same deal. and I needed a new team name, and a lot of them were like that: Swiftly Undo Justice or Taylor Swift. And I went with I moved their names around. So Jonathan Taylor is JT, DeAndre Swift is DS. So I named my team. Let me look it up real quick so I know how to pronounce it. Joe Andre Twift is my team name.
All right, cool. All right, we're gonna slide over to my last guy, and so we're gonna talk tight end. I don't think we've hit tight end yet, right? No. All right, so we're gonna talk about tight end. And when you draft a tight end, you personally, in your redraft leagues, how do you usually sit for tight end? Are you the guy who's going after the Kelsey, the Kittle, the Andrews, the top guy? No, you're taking your running back, wide receivers there.
Yeah,
I'm usually that way. Every once in a while, I will sacrifice the wide receiver for that, but running back was really scarce and taking it up. So I didn't end up with any of the Kelseys, the Kittles, the Andrews this season. So if I don't get those top guys, you just might as well call me a punter, because I am punting and punting and punting and streaming as long as possible, unless my league starts picking up 2 and 3 tight ends, which they decided to do last night. But in the last round, which I call free, you like getting stuff for free, right?
Absolutely.
So in the last round, I took this tight end. He has an ADP of 202, which is 16.8. So, okay, I went a round early because I couldn't go round 17. We don't have one. But I took him where I should, I guess. So let's get this ADP off the board and out of my way. This guy last season, well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this guy is an athletic freak. Do you like your tight ends to be an athletic freak, or do you like them to be a blocking tight end where they're in to block all the time? Hey, they're on the field, but they're blocking the vast majority of the plays and not getting out there running routes. What's your preference there, Detroit Beastie?
Well, if there was a stat for every time you made a solid block, sure, but it doesn't count for nothing. I mean, it gets you in the good graces of your running back, your quarterback, your offense, your coaches. But I'm sorry, I like my tight end to catch passes.
Exactly. And you like them to be extremely athletic. And I do think they should have a league that has offensive stats in it and offensive line stats in it. That would be a new twist to the IDP. It'd be very interesting. And they're tracking it. I don't know why they make one for defense. It's just not as sexy for the offensive line, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, moving off from that topic of a little side track. So he's athletic. You can get him for free. He's not the blocking guy. He's the receiving guy. Oh, I also forgot to mention he's on a team that doesn't really have – they might have a strong one, might. They don't really have a strong 2 receiver. They kind of have okay running backs that can catch the ball. So that, to me, means there's a lot of opportunity. He's young, so that's a good thing. I'm talking about Chris Herndon.
Oh.
I don't know if you figured that one out while I was laying it out there for you.
I haven't, huh?
Chris Herndon, he's getting forgotten in drafts. Yeah, he didn't play last season. He did not, but he's out there on the field now. He's out there being healthy. He's out there catching balls. He's making things happen. And there is not a lot of great stuff going on that Jets team to stop him from getting a lot of opportunity to receive a lot of receptions. Now, if they don't score a lot, that means he might have a few less chances to get touchdowns. And that's a big deal when you talk tight end. But I've got him as my tight end 11. So he's just barely squeaking in to tight end 1 range. That's with 79 targets. That's not extreme. 55 receptions, 705 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Pretty reasonable numbers for a guy as athletic as a freak as he is. And that's who I'm going to call my last warrior right there. Put some green face paint on him.
Real quick. So
yeah.
I'm in a few sleeper leagues. A few of them are, charity leagues. You get invited and you do it. And a guy last night added Chris Herndon off waivers, and it caused this huge scene because another guy in the league already had him. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I guess Sleeper messed up in some way, and they added 2 Chris Herndons, both from the Jets, but the one that was already rostered was like it was the fake Chris Herndon, as we're saying. So the guy
must have been the 5th, not the 4th.
the guy who the guy who added Herndon last night, that was the legit Herndon, and the other owner of the fake Herndon was freaking out. So I don't know if you or anybody else have heard that in terms of Sleeper having a fake Chris Herndon and the real official Chris Herndon.
I have not personally seen that. If I'm the commish, the only right thing to do is to back out that waiver and pick up this guy who shouldn't even be on a roster. It's clear and obvious that I don't think he was going for the sleeper pick of the decade. It's probably like a punter or something. So, yeah, very interesting. So those are the Detroit BC's Beasts and Bob's Three-Toed Warriors. That's how we roll it here. I can be found at Bob's Three-Toed on Twitter, Bob's Three-Toed Warriors on the YouTubes. If you want to see our smiling faces, you want to see the studio set up looking all pretty here. Soon enough, maybe not. Have some drop-in, pop-in guests. Have a little laptop over there with another person. Bring it on over, brother. Detroit Beasties. I pretty much told them where you can be found, but tell them where you can be found.
All my work, all my content is exclusively at dfscheatsheet.com or dfscheatsheet1 on Twitter. As long as they're playing hockey and it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, you can find hot pucking stacks every morning if you're into DFS and hockey. Thank you. And then look for my big, super extra large IDP deep dive this week, where I go over 200 plus of your favorite IDP guys. So I'm excited for that one. It's been about a month going. You know, I think I tweeted out the top 120 highlighted color coordination and all that. So look for the big super duty bonus one later this week. And that's all.
I love it. Well, that is Bob's Three-Toed Warriors and Detroit Beastie, reminding you that soon enough you'll be able to hit the waiver wire, set your lineups, and dominate your opponents. But until then, see ya. Warriors and the Bees.